Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 81 of Cutscene Convos. We've got an absolutely massive episode this week. Our character profile is on Atom Eve, Ahsoka episode 3, Superman Legacy. Is it going to flop? Will it kill DC? Let's find out. We've got the new Marvels trailer to have a little look at and talk about. A chunky Nerd News Network, and of course, as always, our content championship this week between Man of Steel and the Winter Soldier. But for all that good stuff, Horizontal, how's your week?
Always been good. What has happened? I feel like I've been extra busy with work this week, as not this weekend, next weekend I go away for a week. So trying to get ahead on, getting ahead on work. Especially the editing stuff that I'm doing at the moment. I got to get ahead on videos edited and stuff. So that's been taking up a lot of my time. Though at the weekend, I went and did some airsoft for the first time ever.
Oh, wow.
You
saw. You're a big guy. You probably got hit a fair bit as well.
So, me and my mate have talked about it for like years that we want to try airsoft. And then we found a place that was like 10 minutes down the road from him that was in an old warehouse. Old office. So it was like,
oh, nice,
close quarters. It was a lot of fun. We just hired, so we got like pistol, a mask, and some like the most basic like gloves that you would get from like B&Q had no thickness to them. Might as well not have been wearing gloves because I got shot the most on my hand. Because you're like this hand got absolutely abused, and it hurt.
So thicker gloves are required if you want to do it more regularly.
Yeah. I was just in like I had a pretty thick hoodie on, which I regretted because I was boiling. Yeah. But also it did take a lot of the impact. It was a lot of fun, very addictive. My mate is already looking at buying his own stuff.
Yeah.
And
it's one of them things that is like, that could be a lot of fun. The thing is, I've seen so many compilations of like people in America who do it regularly, and you just get these absolute nutcases who turn up who also own real guns, and they start mouthing off, and you're just like, I don't like that. But over here in the UK, where it's just going to be most likely most of the time you go, you're going to have people who do it regularly for fun, and maybe a pissed up stag. Like, you'll be fine.
The place we went to, it was like, I'd say like 18, early 20, like you had a range of like youngsters, and then there's some older ones. There was two guys that were like kitted head to toe, obviously do it regularly. A couple of the guys there, their guns obviously are decent guns and they hit harder than some other guns. So you like, that hurt. That one hurt.
Yeah, as a bit more oomph behind.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun, and definitely want to do that again.
Awesome.
But yeah, how's your week been?
Busy. It was bank holiday weekend gone.
It was,
which is one less day at work, which for most people is a good thing, and for me it was a good thing. It was nice. I needed the 3-day weekend. But as a result, I'm off next week, which means I have. When it got busy at the back end of last week and I couldn't do everything, I then lost a day this week to get back on track. And then other project work has arisen that had to be done first.
Yeah.
Which means when I get back the week after next, it's probably going to be hell on earth. But we try not to think about that.
Yeah.
Because I'll be doing 12-hour shifts on Starfield basically all next week. So
love that for you.
I cannot wait. Literally this weekend and then Monday and Tuesday is finish Baldur's Gate, or get as close to finishing it as possible. And then Wednesday is just absolutely no life in Starfield in a way that I've never done before.
I mean, valid. I think a lot of people are going to be doing that.
Yeah, when it came to story, especially single story games, for a long time I never put a lot of hours into a single story game. The first time I ever did it was Fallout 4.
Right. Fair.
And I decided to get that over FIFA that year, because obviously I was a bit younger.
Back when we used to get one game a year.
Yeah. And I'd literally just 400 hours. Bang. I forgot the whole point was I was supposed to be saving a kid until like 300 hours in. And I was like, oh shit, my son.
Honestly, that's like me. I was like that with Skyrim. Just so many hours, so many different playthroughs. And now you get so distracted.
And how many of them playthroughs for a stealth archer?
Only like one. Because I also played Oblivion, where I did a lot of stealth in Oblivion.
Okay, cool.
And back in that day, like, I would cheese my stealth to 99, like do the whole like rubber band on the controller, so I'm crouched into a corner, just like leveling it up, and I go AFK for a bit. Can't do that nowadays.
But yeah, I mean, I've seen some of the stuff since the embargo lifted at like 5 o'clock today, and it looks good. And all the reviews are looking good, which is a surprise because normally there are certain journalist outlooks that definitely favour PlayStation exclusive over Xbox exclusives. And they don't seem to be trying to tank Starfield, which must mean it's either very good or they want people to buy it, so they hate Microsoft. We'll find out.
Who knows? But
should we get into our character profile for this week?
I think we should.
So, last week we covered Invincible.
We did.
You finally got around to watching it, and it had been burning a hole in my pocket. This week we're covering another Invincible character, Atom Eve. Ooh.
We got her special recently.
Samantha Eve Wilkins, aka Atom Eve, first appeared in Invincible #2 in February 2003. Eve was a government experiment destined to be a superweapon. However, when one of her creators, Arius Brandyworth, had a change of heart during her birth in which her mother died, he swapped her with a stillborn child to protect her from the government and give the family the baby they thought they had lost. Of course, she would grow up with them, the Wilkins. They would not know that she was not their daughter. She would not know that she was not their daughter. Yep. As she aged and showed an aptitude for the sciences, she would go to a school for gifted children before leaving after not meeting their expectations. She had multiple run-ins with her family because she was so different. And as she got older, her powers more fully manifested. When after a particularly brutal argument with her parents, she was given dinner she didn't like and turned it into a cheeseburger. She then decides she wants to use her powers to fight crime. And it's at this point Brandyworth reveals himself to have been watching her from the shadows since childhood to try and keep her safe. And he explains that she can't use her powers as it may put her in danger from the government. Unconcerned, Eve continues to use her powers for good, eventually drawing the government's attention. At which point they send multiple poor replication attempts after her. She defeats them after finding out that they are related to her in some way. But her and Brandyworth are caught by the government officials. While captured, Eve pleaded for Brandyworth's freedom in exchange for her staying and doing as she was told. But instead, she is forced to watch as Brandyworth was executed, as well as being told her mother is alive. Yeah, she's not in a great state, as anyone who saw the special can attest to. This amount of strain, however, caused her to temporarily move past the mental block that stops her from being omnipotent. Was kind of temporarily subdued, and she was able to wipe the minds of those who had been chasing her of her entire existence. And this allowed her to continue as Atom Eve without the threat of the government chasing her. She would then go back to her family and pretend that none of this had happened because she now had no choice but them. but she changed a picture of her family to look like what a picture of her family should have looked like, to show how much she missed that. She would then go on to join the teen team, where she would work alongside her boyfriend Rex Sloan, aka Rex Splode, and eventually meet Mark Grayson, aka Invincible. Atom Eve is a huge part of like the Invincible comics, and she was a big part of season 1, and that will only continue to grow in season 2, I am sure.
Yep.
She's crazy powerful.
Oh yeah.
All bar that mental block, she is a god. Without that mental block stopping her from being able to use her powers on living things, she would be literally unstoppable. And the fact that when she was under enough emotional strain, she was able to get past that mental block, I've got a feeling that that might be something we experience at a later date once again. That feels like what you call it, Chekhov's gun. You don't load a gun if you're not going to have a character fire it. I feel like you don't show her being able to get past that once if she doesn't end up using it again. But a really cool character, and I think, bearing in mind, by 2003, it felt like we'd kind of had all of the archetypes of heroes.
Yeah.
I think that's why Invincible's so successful, because it came in and it uses the archetypes, but they changed them in just enough a way to make them feel like a brand new direction for characters, without having to go the more obvious route of really dark or really gritty or really stupidly funny. Just kind of, no, what if we just made this little tweak and then ran with it? And I think it works very well.
No, yeah, it works great. She's a fun and very interesting character, and I think you're right. We're definitely going to see her get past that block again. I wouldn't
be surprised. Yeah, with some of the not full understanding, but kind of bits that you see just from being on the parts of the internet I'm on about like where the general story of Invincible goes, I can definitely see a couple of opportunities where there would potentially be enough strain for her to breeze past them limitations again.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
So, episode 3.
Yes.
Very, very short.
It was a shorter one. I noticed that straight away with the runtime.
But even this is my problem with Disney Plus and all streaming services. Because do you remember when Netflix first came about? Everyone was like, wait, Friends used to be on for 30 minutes on TV. These episodes are only 23 minutes long. It's like, yeah, but you don't have to worry about adverts or anything anymore. Ha ha ha. And we're like, oh, sweet. Stuff can now be watched quicker. And then we come to Disney Plus and it says that this episode of Ahsoka was 37 minutes. But once you skip the recap from the last episode and the intro, and then you cut out the credits at the end, it's actually only 32 minutes. How are we losing 5 minutes of a very short running time anyway to recap opening and closing credits?
The thing as well, though, is like most of that is credits. Like Star Wars has such, because it's got this crazy long like credit sequence that some people have gone out there and translated it, broke the cipher on it. But like, yeah, you're right. It takes off like, and especially after episode 1 and 2 were such long, like we were like, oh, this is a good chunk of opening. And then it's like the third episode is like, nah, SAG, it's back down to like 30 minutes.
It's the old Revenge of the Sith meme. R2 was supposed to be going up, not down. But that runtime didn't hurt the episode's quality. It was a very good episode.
No.
Still.
And I think it did end where it needed to, and I don't feel like it missed out on anything. I think it's more just like I just want more.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like it was too fast of a pace.
No, it was good. It was nice to see Sabine starting to train again, and just Hugh Wang, Hugh Wang, is just absolutely torching Ahsoka and Sabine every chance he gets. He is so
classic.
Sassy.
It's the classic thing of like, we need to have a droid of some sort that has good personality. They chose Hugh Wang, and it's great.
and then you add David Tennant's voice onto it, and it's just the perfect level of sass.
Yeah, it is exactly. I really enjoyed the training thing, like the things he was using to track.
Yeah,
because I feel like that's a new. I don't. Well, from my memory, I don't think I've ever seen that for Jedi training, and I've always
I don't think
cool.
we've ever seen proper practice sabers like that.
No, we've seen some wooden stick stuff before, I think. But like the whole like marking where she's hitting and having like a score to it, it's like, oh shit, we've seen the whole drone shoots a little laser from the original trilogy, but it's
Yeah.
like there's a lot of stuff there that they can like is new, have fun with the VFX. I enjoy that the training then Ahsoka was just like, okay, you don't think you can use the force, you're still gonna put on the helmet and we're still gonna do this. And she's just like 100% could have beaten her ass at any point, but she's just like tap, and Sabine freaks the fuck out. And I loved that whole like training thing, but then also did show that like she was improving as it went on.
It's definitely the I mean, it was the running joke from the Mandalorian, not the Mandalorian, Rebels at times, where it's like, I just wish she wasn't so Mandalorian because she's just so wound tight and everything.
Yeah.
And that is kind of just an extension of it. It's like Ahsoka is confident that she can access the Force, but
Mm-hmm.
she's just so wound tight and stuck in her ways that she's blocking herself.
Yeah. There
And
was
that's why
a
like Mandalorian Jedi are so powerful and so rare.
yeah. There was a fun the thing with the cup. I saw a great thing on TikTok that obviously reminded me then because someone was like, "This is a mirror of like when Ezra was first trying, and he's trying to move a bowl, and then Chopper picks it up when he thinks he's starting to move it, and it is very much a mirror of they're both trying to move something and struggled. Ezra figured it out. Sabine could also figure it out.
Uh-huh.
Um, I enjoyed very much the ship chase fight sort of thing, and how we got there like butting heads a bit, and then Ahsoka was like, "Okay, let's do it your way. Like, what do you need from me? Stop." She went like what she's known from always being forced to follow her master's teachings and always butted heads against that, and then kind of developed past that and realizes, hang on, I don't know everything. I don't know the best. What does Sabine need? And then they just kick ass with the joint moves. I thought that was very fun.
Yeah. I did enjoy the subtle dig about you've come from a unconventional line of
Yes.
Jedis. Because when you actually like follow like the Jedi lineage back, it goes Yoda to Dooku,
Mm-hmm.
Dooku to Qui-Gon,
Mm-hmm.
to Obi-Wan, to Anakin, to Ahsoka, to Sabine.
Yeah. And all along that, like, I mean, even way back to Obi-Wan, he went against it a little bit. And then it's like, obviously Anakin did, then Ahsoka. And it's like, it's just, I liked how there's so many times where Huang's like, this isn't the Jedi way. And Ahsoka goes, yeah, but I ain't a Jedi.
Yeah.
I've worked out fine. What's your
Yeah,
point?
I mean, you just look at the entire line. You got Dooku who fell to the dark side, but he didn't fall like because he wanted power. He fell because he thought the Jedi Order was wrong.
Yeah.
Then you had Qui-Gon, who was not a conventional Jedi at all.
No.
Followed by Obi-Wan, who tried to be a good Jedi, but fell in love and developed attachments.
Mm-hmm.
Anakin, who did that to an even bigger degree and then obviously fell to the dark side. Ahsoka, who got kicked out of the Order wrongfully and then turned her back on the Jedi when invited back in. And then you got Sabine, the person who might not even be Force sensitive and isn't a Mandalorian.
Yeah. It's a wild lineage. We also got to see Purrgils in CGI.
That was so cool.
They look amazing. And like they very much got across the sense of scale from them, which I loved. Even more excited for this whole like that is quite clear now why they're at that planet. They're all there. They're obviously going to migrate from that planet. The ship was them realizing what the ship was and stuff. I saw a thing that I think Luke linked to me. The ship interior, the golden one or whatever on the ring, that interior of the like the cockpit or whatever, where the Morgans stood,
Yeah,
is the same ship that in the trailer we
we see
see
Thrawn.
Thrawn. So it's
Hmm.
obvious then, 100% going to make the jump. Thrawn's going to
Yeah.
be in this ship when he
Well,
returns.
yeah. I mean, it explained it all, didn't it? Hugh Wang said in his databanks he found records of intergalactic hyperspace lanes that Purrgils used,
Mm,
and the Purrgils are here, which clearly shows they're at one of the lane points.
yeah,
And they're building something that can travel potentially as fast and as far as a Purrgil, and the
yeah.
Purrgils are the ones who fucking grabbed Ezra and Thrawn.
So very excited for that. I thought it was cool to see we saw Hera's kid finally.
Jason,
Because my mate made a good point, and I had completely actually forgotten about the kid. I'm going to be honest, because it's been so long since I watched Rebels. But he was like, "Where's Hera's kid? We haven't seen Hera's kid." So cool to see him show up. I know there was rumor at first that actually he wasn't going to have. People were thinking he wasn't going to have green hair.
oh really?
Yeah, people. There
Because
was
they were like,
rumor.
we're not going to get a kid to dye their hair green.
Well, I don't know. Like people, whether it was based off a Lego toy or something they'd seen, and he didn't
Oh yeah.
have, and they were thinking, oh, they've changed his like for styling slightly, but I actually they haven't. He still had the green hair.
I think it's a bit darker than people might
Yeah,
have expected. Because when I saw like pictures of it, I was like, "Is that green or is it just like a weird black?" But no, it is. It is green.
I feel
For
like
sure.
he might play a bigger part towards the end of this.
Yeah. For some reason, I've got a feeling he's going to help Sabine unlock her Jedi potential. If we get
Yeah,
a Force Ghost, Kanan at some point, I'm gonna lose full because that might make me cry.
I think if we when with Ezra might get it.
I'm really
Obviously,
curious to see because like how long have they been gone in this timeline? Like 10 years?
yeah, but this is the thing. We don't know.
No, but we know the end of Rebels was
Oh well, yeah.
like
The
2 years
time
before.
the time difference since End of Rebels is about 10 to 15 years, something in that rough ballpark.
So I mean they could, yeah, they could use the time jump the travel to make Ezra older, but Thrawn doesn't seem to be that much older.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. It's like because it's messing with time. Ezra could be the same age,
Yeah.
like or not,
Um
like a little bit older. Like
But I like the idea of like Ezra being like 20 years older and just being like proper Zen, like monk, Jedi, God. And we're like, this is not the kid who was always angry and like always showed flashes of potentially falling to the dark side. This is a kid who's finally understood the Force.
I think that would be cool, but I also think if that was the case, he would have got rid of Thrawn.
Potentially.
We know Thrawn's coming back. It's going to be interesting to see that, like that reveal of Ezra and Thrawn eventually.
Uh-huh.
Um, I thought we got Mon Mothma, which
That was
was
really cool.
yeah, and we got
And
obviously the
did we know before this that she became the Chancellor of the New Republic?
I don't
Or is that a reveal?
I don't
I don't ever
know.
remember hearing about the Chancellor of the New Republic.
I can't remember. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that. It might be new, but I thought it was interesting to see how I was getting the same vibes from the senators as like why do I feel like some of them are in the secret one that we saw in Mando?
Yeah, in the Dark Council
They thought,
meetings.
yeah. I feel like some of them
It's
having connections with that.
yeah, I mean, we saw in Mandalorian that these loyalty oaths they make former Imperial people take mean nothing.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
We've seen that. So them so proudly sitting there like there are Imperials at every level of the New Republic because they've sworn that legacy to us. It's like that means nothing.
Yeah, they don't care. Means fuck all when you've got a Sith that's extremely powerful.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
I want next episode to move the story along a little bit. If we're still waiting for the next part of the actual story, as in the jump to hyperspace or whatever, after next week's episode, I think they might be losing the pace slightly.
I expect next episode, because it ended with not Sith guy, but Sith guy, Balin saying, go hunt them down, they're in the forest somewhere. He was stood at the star map location, which makes sense now. Purrgils are in the sky above that planet where the star, like, it makes sense, the location, everything. We know Ahsoka fights Balin in what looks similar to that, but we were feeling like it was in the place between. But it could very much be that location.
The star map gets popped up and then they have a fight,
So maybe it gets popped up because they're about to do the jump and they need to have
or maybe
it or something.
Ahsoka finds it and she's getting the information
Possibly.
and then he interrupts her.
I think there's going to be a fight. I wouldn't be surprised if we know it has the hyperdrive, it's being finished construction, so it's like it could very easily end the episode with everyone going into a jump. Or the ship jumps and then Ahsoka's left with like, shit, we got to wait for this to come back. Because I imagine the idea is it's going to come back and bring Thrawn back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. If it's not this, if the next episode doesn't kind of end on that point of like the jump to go get Thrawn, it's a bit like, come on, pick it up.
I mean,
like,
there's 9 episodes, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're already a third of the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And other than like people trying to work out what's happening, we're not actually any further through than we were at the end of the first episode. We knew at the end of the first episode they were planning to go get Thrawn.
Yeah.
We don't know more than that. Don't get me wrong. We're having a lot of fun getting to the next part of the story, so that's not a problem. But we do need to start getting to the next part of the story.
Yeah.
But I don't think any of the criticism I've seen so far has been valid. What I will say is I did see one very funny thing.
Go on.
So there was some criticism when the last like trailer bit came out, like 2 days before it released, of the fight scene that we now know was on Corellia between her and Marek, between Ahsoka and Marek.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, why does it look so washed out? It looks like potentially Disney Plus may have exported it wrong and uploaded it under the wrong color scheme that made it look washed out. Because someone like downloaded it and like re-rendered it.
Yeah,
under a different export. Like just a basic export set. They didn't like recolor it manually. They just re-rendered it under a different color setting and it popped a lot better. So everyone's like, did whoever's responsible for uploading content onto the main platform just fuck up?
Possibly.
Which it would be very funny.
It would, and in a way, it wouldn't surprise me if it turned to a fuck up like that or something.
But I mean, the actual show itself bangs so far. It is.
Yeah,
It's not Andor, it's not Rogue One, it's still peak Star Wars.
It's funny because it's like the criticism I keep seeing is all just so dumb and gets shut down so quick. Like there was one where it's like, why is Ahsoka we've had multiple outfit changes, which is cool, but she's always in the same pose looking like she's grumpy and mad with her arms crossed. And this person like immediately on TikTok shuts it down that stitched it. They're like, oh yeah, they're like back in Clone Wars she wasn't crossing it and it shows like 4 pictures of her from Clone Wars all with her arms.
When I think of Ahsoka, I think of her with her arms closed.
And then they're like, oh well, in Rebels, and she didn't have. Oh, yep, she had it in Rebels.
Yeah. That's
well, in Mando, she doesn't. Oh, okay, yeah, she had her arms crossed in Mando. Yeah. It's like find a criticism, but like at least make sure it's like if you're gonna pick one about the way they're doing the character, like at least make sure you've researched and realized. Oh wait, no, Ahsoka's just being Ahsoka. Like, well,
It's the exact same thing I saw. I saw someone talking about how all Star Wars characters are becoming really stoic, and they were showing the live action shows. So it's like Mandalorian and Bo-Katan and Boba Fett and Fennec Shard. And I'm like, all of these people have lived their entire life in war and conflict of growing scales.
yeah.
What do you expect?
Well, yeah, we even saw that from Hera in the episode. She was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I fought in the wars while you just sat there and waited to see who came out on top, which I love that. Like
Yeah.
you little bitch.
You're telling me what to do here, but you'd still be singing the Empire's national anthem if we didn't win.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of criticism flying around, but a lot of it is just not valid. I think the show is actually really great. And for the people that love Star Wars, like, it's hitting the points.
Yeah. But what I will say is if you don't like Ahsoka and you don't like Andor, maybe Star Wars ain't for you.
Yeah. Maybe go watch Rebel Moon.
Yeah, maybe. Now this is an interesting one.
Okay.
I have seen a lot of people saying that Superman Legacy is the last chance for DC. So there's a couple of bits to why people have this opinion. I don't think it's completely unfounded, but I do think they're missing the bigger picture as well. So the main criticism comes from DC films have basically made dick all money for 4 years now.
Right, yeah.
And Blue Beetle, which even the people who've seen it like, isn't exactly setting the world on fire, money-wise.
Yeah.
So if Superman, which historically has always done well at the box office, like even all the way back in the 80s, can't make a boatload of money, are Warner Brothers just going to pull the plug? Because I guess the argument would be, if you can't even get people in to watch a Superman film, what the fuck are they going to turn up to see? And there's a couple of nuances to this. You've got some people who are like, if Superman Legacy fails, maybe they give up on the connected universe for a little while.
Yeah.
And just go back to individual projects like Matt Reeves' Batman and stuff like that. But it's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, I definitely, when you were saying that there, I was thinking it might be their last chance to have a successful connected universe to try and compete with the precedent that MCU set. But I don't think it did. Like, they would, Warner Brothers isn't just going to ditch DC. They've seen success with Matt Reeves' Batman and some of these other more standalone DC projects. So I think there's some merit to, like, if this doesn't succeed, maybe this, I think phase one, what James Gunn's plan to make, I think they would give that whole phase a try, even if Superman's a bit slow off the rip. I think if it's the first 3 films have come out and it's like, okay, this isn't doing well, I think it doesn't get to expand past that. Like, maybe James Gunn tries to do all the setup, and if it's gone nowhere and no one cares about it, then maybe Warner Bros. Is like, okay, yeah, this ain't going any further.
It's a tricky one because growing up in the time we've grown up, it's difficult to imagine anyone would stop making superhero films just because of how much money they can make. But you've got a lot of people on the internet shouting and screaming about what DC should do and what they shouldn't do, but no one's turning up to the cinema.
True.
And like it's become like a recurring meme. It's like DC fans on the internet, and it's just like a packed out stadium. And it's like DC fans in real life, and it's just an empty cinema screen.
Yeah.
It's really, really rough. They need a couple of big hitter characters to go out there and do bits, and then they need to try and do their secondary characters. The problem, I think, that people aren't talking about enough is the Snyder fanboys. I genuinely believe, without going to watch films, they are talking shit on a film purely because they are fighting this restore the Snyderverse, sell the Snyderverse to Netflix bullshit. And it's created such toxicity around it and they're just relentlessly talking shit about anything that's not his, to the point where people who are more casual are just going, "Oh, it's not people."
Yeah,
The
DC's not
people
doing great.
who watch this stuff all the time aren't impressed, so I won't bother. Which is fine. It is absolutely fine if you hear the opinion of someone you respect or trust.
Mm.
Like, I'd like to think if me or you said to our close friends or our family, "I went to see that, it's not any good," that they
Yeah.
go, right, that they know what they're talking about, we'll trust them. And I just wonder if them Schneider fans are potentially part of the reason. Of course, I don't think they are the sole reason. The films have not been good enough,
Yeah.
but I think that issue then compounds.
I think you're right. I think it's just like the collection of the rough ending to the DCEU. People what sort of sold on this like build up of a connected DC universe, and then it's all just fallen apart. So people are like, well, is it going to work a second time around? Adds confusion as well to the casual fans. I think, like you say, you've got the Snyder fans that are so stuck on this idea that Henry Cavill is Superman and no one else can now be Superman. But at the time, they shit talked, but they want Ben Affleck as Batman, but then they used to shit talk Ben Affleck as Batman. And then people are get annoyed now about Wonder Woman, but they still want, like, there's this weird, like, we want our actors and actresses to still be these characters, but we also want to hate on them. Which is all just creating this like weird place where casual fans and people that are just trying to enjoy DC are now like, well, that, let it go. Just let it go and let's move on. I do think James Gunn has a very like big uphill battle to get DC off the ground again. Until that first look comes in of Superman
The
Legacy.
only thing that makes me a bit more confident is once Aquaman is done,
Yeah.
DCEU is done.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure in 2024 the only live action film we have is a Foliage, which everyone knows is separate anyway.
Yeah.
So that'll be easy. And then in 2025 we can start fresh with Superman Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
That is almost certainly going to be delayed because these strikes don't seem to be ending anytime soon. But that's supposed to be 2025. It might just be late 2025 instead of early 2025.
Yeah.
That hopefully gives enough time for there to then be a desire again.
Yeah.
As stupid as it sounds, these strikes might actually bring back good superhero projects because a lot of stuff is going to get delayed, but also because they're going to be paying people more, they're going to be crunching them less because it's not just the money they're asking people for, it's also better conditions overall. And then if this VFX unionization goes through and potentially they strike, we might see shoddy below par CGI dip because you're not going to have VFX workers essentially living in sweatshops just to get this product out that's forcing them to work too hard for too long on not enough sleep and then making silly mistakes. And it's one of these things where I will sit here and go, yeah, the CGI wasn't good enough. I'm not blaming a VFX artist for the CGI not being good enough because every VFX artist working on Hollywood, if given enough time, will make the CGI look good. If the CGI looks bad, it's purely because it's rushed. And that is not on the VFX artist. That is on the person making them decisions.
Yeah. 100%. I think you're right. I do think the year off, like, we're in this weird dying curve of the DCU where we keep being drip fed these like final projects that we've said for months don't mean anything. We just want them out of the way. And I think once that happens, like you say, there'll be that break. There'll be a bit of a desire for DC stuff again. Maybe a bit of like anticipation for the first look at the new Superman. Like when we get like, even if it's just a still of him in the suit or the first teaser. Hopefully that is well received and that kind of reinvigorates everyone a bit.
100%. And I think a folie based on how well Joker did.
Mm.
I mean, Joker is the most well-received R-rated film of all time. Yeah, like the most profitable R-rated film of all time. There is going to be a large amount of people who want to go see that sequel.
Mm.
And then we'll have nothing until Superman Legacy. And then you'll probably get Matt Reeves' second Batman film around the same time.
Yeah.
So you're going to go from a bunch of shit projects that no one wanted to the sequel everyone's been begging for.
Yep.
New Superman, and I refuse to ever believe Superman won't put butts in seats. And the sequel to the best Batman film ever.
Yeah.
That is a real chance if they can go 3 for 3 there to light DC back on fire.
Yeah, I mean, you've also got the
it's
Penguin
techie.
series as well.
Yeah, I
which
don't
should
know where they're at
hopefully-
with that. I'm not sure if they've started writing or filming or anything with the strikes. But yes, that is
unsure,
also
but
coming.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting.
For sure. The Marvels trailer.
Yes, we got
an extended look.
We did. We got a new teaser trailer. It looks fun.
It does. I've said for a little while now I'm okay for Marvel to move away from their formula. I know that people on the internet and around the world are like, "Oh, this doesn't feel like a Marvel film," and then when they just follow the formula, they're like, "Oh, it's also the samey." And I think that's really hurt Marvel, the kind of indecision over what people want.
Yeah.
This seems like a kind of different I can get behind.
Yeah. It seems fun in the sense of we're essentially getting like a team up film. Like almost like a mini Avengers feel of like, okay, we're getting a few of the heroes teaming up now. But not necessarily like for an end of the world situation. It's because some weird shit's going on. They're stuck having to team up and figure it out.
They're intertwined with each other. They don't have much of a choice.
Yeah, it's not so much like end of the world. Oh shit, big threat. Let's get the squad together. It's a weird, smaller level threat that's like now we're intertwined and we're trying to figure this out. And then there's also someone coming to kill us. Like what? It's going to be fun.
And we've got some interesting relationships as well. We've obviously got Monica, who holds a bit of resentment towards Carol. Carol, who's off trying to be the big intergalactic superhero. Kamala, who adores Carol and is still coming to terms with being a hero herself.
Yeah.
In the trailer, Carol clearly recognizes Kamala's bangle.
Yes.
It does. So that makes me think that the villain, who's also wearing a bangle that looks similar, is almost certainly related.
Yeah, well, it's the villain's Kree.
Yeah, I believe so.
So that makes me believe that the bangle is of some sort of Kree weaponry or like an item from their culture. Which, interesting that we're now getting that's the connection of where it's from. Because obviously a lot of people like the 10 Rings, the quantum realm stuff maybe, but then like, okay, we're getting a bit of a connection of where it's come from. And then, like you said, these relations of, we've got, like you say, the resentment from Monica, then you've got the fangirl getting to team up with the person that she just wanted to become and then ended up becoming a superhero. There's going to be a weird mentorship, I think, that happens there.
100%. I think you're going to see her trying to mentor Kamala. Meanwhile, Monica's going to be like, I've seen this before. She's just going to leave you. It's going to probably be a bit cliche in spaces, but it's probably going to give the film a bit of heart and a bit of meaning because they're all characters we already know as well. So we're not having to do a lot of hard work getting to know them. We already know them. And I believe it's also going to be the first time we've seen characters go from small screen to big screen. I'm not counting Daredevil because it was the Netflix show and we don't even know if it's canon. But I don't think we've yet seen a Disney Plus character on the big screen.
Other than, I guess, Kang, because our first introduction to Kang was Loki.
Yeah. So Jonathan Majors.
Yeah.
So that's probably the closest, yeah.
Well, other than, we've not had any heroes make the switch yet.
Yeah, and two of them are going to be making a
Yeah.
switch in this. I'm looking forward to it. I did enjoy, as like silly as it is. Obviously, the first Captain Marvel film was all about higher, further, faster. That was like what her and Monica's mum used to say to each other. And then at the end of that trailer, you get higher, further, faster, but each one of them saying a different part of it.
Yeah.
I think that this film's going to be a lot of fun. Unfortunately, I just know people are going to decide to pan it because it's 3 leading women in starring roles, 2 of them also being people of color. So it sucks because it's going to get more hate than it deserves purely for that reason. All I ask is that people watch it and view it as a film and not. These people always complain about politics being brought into cinema, but they'll be the first ones to trash something as being woke instead of just representation.
Yeah. I think there's like the couple of worries I have with it. It's obviously all that's going to happen, but I think I worry that I don't want us to have an Ant-Man situation where I'm not saying I'm expecting one of these characters to die or anything, but like a situation where like there's an expected thing about to happen and then they kind of cop out and don't do it.
Yeah.
I'll be a bit annoyed if that happens. Like if they kind of just sidestep and avoid doing something that everyone's anticipating, a bit like what happened in Ant-Man.
If it feels like they've at the last second reshot something because they wanted to go a different direction, because that's what Ant-Man felt like. It felt like he got left in the quantum realm and he was going to be stuck there. And then they decided last minute they were going to reshoot it because nothing was really explained. It was just, oh, look, it works one last time. Let's go grab him.
Yeah.
And yeah, I completely agree.
I hope we know there's this big setup for the Kang stuff. Obviously, I kind of want there to be some maybe more hidden connections or like something they're doing that then we're like, that's new. But then in a future film, it pays off. We're like, oh shit, that was connected. How like the original, like the first set of Marvel films were, we started like spotting these connections. I don't want it to be heavy, like they're fighting someone and then it's like, actually, psych, this is all about Kang. And like they make it this big end of the world situation again. It's like, no, I should have kept it just their issue that they're dealing with.
I agree. And I think part of that problem has come from fans. And I'm not trying to absolve Marvel of the wrongdoings here. They definitely could have handled it better. But fans coming out of them first few films complaining there was no connection has forced them to tweak it slightly to make the connection more obvious.
Mm-hmm.
And now you get people going, oh, it wasn't even focused on that. It was focused on the Kang stuff. It's like, well, what do you want? Because the stuff we were trying to do would probably have made sense retrospectively, like the originals did.
Yeah.
But you guys were saying there was nothing in there instead of giving it time to actually mean something.
Yeah. So I think from the trailer, it doesn't feel like they're going to go like big end of the world and like tie it into Kang. It looks like they're keeping it its own issue. So we should be good there. I'm looking for, like you say, it looks fun. Should be a nice change of pace a little bit.
I would very much like to go back to going to watch superhero films and just hoping they're fun and not worrying about too much else, at least during the first viewing. Like Blue Beetle, I was like, please just be fun, and it fucking was. And it also happened to have a lot of love and everything else good there. But that's what I wanted from it, and that's how I want to start viewing superhero films again.
Yeah, agreed.
Should we get on to some nerdy news?
I think we should.
We've got a relatively stacked bit here.
Yeah, it's been a busy week with different bits of news and stuff.
Indeed. So, the late night talk show hosts in America, Colbert, Fallon, Kimmel, Myers, and Oliver, are doing a limited podcast series talking about the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes and how it's affected how they do things and everything like that. And all of the money that the podcast makes will be going to the staff of the shows who are currently out of work because the shows are obviously on hold, which is good.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to remember, like, Jimmy Fallon came up through SNL. John Oliver is a long-time British comedian who kind of went over to America like mid-2000 and kind of got big over there and has kind of been forgotten by the British audience. He He did what James Corden did, but without being an annoying bastard the entire time. So, like, a lot of these guys come from these writing and acting backgrounds, which is why, although they will have felt a pressure to not try and cross the picket line, they also probably they themselves will have been quite happy to support their fellow workers.
Yeah.
And then doing this when I assume they're not going to make a penny off of it, they might make a little bit. It's a good thing to do. It's a fair thing to do. At the end of the day, when them shows are back on the air, they'll go back to making their millions. And their workers will go back to still probably not being paid fairly enough. And I hope they are also using this time to look at their own production and go, are we paying people fairly?
I would hope so. It
I know
also
it's
depends.
not their individual decision,
Yeah.
but they'll have enough pull at the studios and the stations they work at to go, are we being fair?
Yeah, I'm sure they're trying to ensure that the studios are doing the right thing. Obviously, at the end of the day, like, it's probably not in their control fully, so they can only do what they can. But I saw about this podcast. I saw like a clip of the start of it, and I don't know I forget which one it was. Sonny was like, right, Jimmy go first, and both Jimmys went to start. And it's like, you can just tell they obviously all get on, and it's like, although this is for them to talk about the WGA and everything and stuff that's going on at the moment, it wouldn't surprise me if this podcast is so well received that they're like, maybe this should become an actual regular thing.
Yeah. Because it can absolutely benefit all five of them in major ways.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting. We may have had our first Disney Plus show confirmed as getting a second season, other than What If. Our first Disney Plus live action show.
What about Loki?
Oh yeah, I'm waffling. She-Hulk season 2 might be getting a second season by the looks of it. I'm
sorry, I'm like, is this man forgotten that Loki season 2 is literally like not that far away?
Around the corner. Yeah. Nah, good comms. Yeah, She-Hulk's getting a season 2 apparently.
Yes.
We both enjoyed She-Hulk.
I
know a lot of people didn't. Hey, if this VFX if this VFX unionization vote goes through and leads to a subsequent strike that improves conditions, the only valid complaint of She-Hulk, which is slightly wonky CGI in places, might be resolved.
Yeah,
however,
I was going to say, people were harsh on the CGI of She-Hulk. Yes, there was places where it was wonky, but something to like, people need to remember, the first time we saw the Hulk, he didn't look as good as he did the last time we saw the Hulk. Like, they improved that time after time. So, like, She-Hulk's going to come back looking better because they've got a base to work off. They're going to improve it. She's going to look better. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to have the same comedy again. I hope we get a Daredevil appearance.
Yeah. I mean, She-Hulk was exactly what we were told it was going to be. We were told it was going to focus more on the comedy. It was funny.
It was.
If it wasn't your brand of comedy, that's absolutely fine. But do not hate on it purely because it's a woman lead role. And because she twerked at the end of an episode with a famous female rapper.
How could you?
Do you know what I mean?
That was perfect internet humor.
It's just funny.
If you don't like that, you're clearly someone who doesn't enjoy memes and stuff on the internet. Because
at this point, I would rather people just say I don't like women than trying to find bullshit reasons to hate She-Hulk so that we have to deduce that they hate women.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping it'll be even better than season 1. They can save a bit of time on the character building because we've already got a base there now, and we can hopefully get a bit more crime fightery, which will be fun.
Yeah, I think season 2 we'll see a mix of. We've got the basis of who she is now, so we're obviously going to see again that she's the superhero lawyer. She's going to be doing that stuff. We're going to have some fun, like villain of the week in court situation of like who's she representing, what's going on. Meanwhile, I think we will see her start to do a bit of crime fighting, bit of whatnot. Maybe she'll get some training from Daredevil. Maybe they'll have a little hand-to-hand training. uh, but yeah, I think it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it.
100%. And it'll be interesting to see how far off that is.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight trilogy, the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy, returning to select cinemas for Batman Day, September 16th. I'm going to go ahead and assume this is only in America.
I presume so. I'd heard nothing about this, so
yeah, I feel like we don't do a lot of fun re-releases in this country.
No, we're boring.
Especially when it's select theatres, and we know how shit Warner Bros. Are at just releasing stuff in the UK anyway.
Do you know what I think this might cause, though? You know there's going to be a party of people that, like, go rewatch it, who haven't seen it for a while, remember, oh, this was a good Batman trilogy. James Gunn, why can't we have this Batman?
Well, interesting you should say that.
Uh-oh.
Some old Facebook comments from a James Gunn account have been found.
Uh-oh.
Of him trashing the Dark Knight trilogy.
Oh. Is it actually him, though?
I believe so. Don't quote me on that. They might have been very good fakes. But they were basically saying Tim Burton's Batman was shit, which I'm not sure I agree with.
Okay.
And that the Nolan films weren't that good. Batman Begins has a lot of issues. And if he was ever to do Batman, he wouldn't do it that way. Which I'm not necessarily sure I agree with his opinion on them films.
Mm-hmm.
But if these are in fact true statements that he made,
he's finally got his chance to prove it.
It will be really interesting to see how he wants his Batman to be.
Mm.
Because I've said I'm down for a different take of Batman. Mm-hmm. I'm over the gritty, I am the Knight take.
Yeah.
I'm down for a bit more tomfoolery and 60s Adam West goofiness to my superheroes.
These comments, they're either going to bite him in the ass now that he is in charge of DC and he has the reins to prove what he's saying. Either his Batman's going to be not well received and people are going to go, I thought you said you could do better. And his comments are going to come back up. Or people are going to be like, man called it back in the day. Like he does know Batman.
He called his shot and he did not miss.
Yeah. So
yeah. Gentle reminder, ladies and gentlemen, the internet never forgets.
Yeah, everything is on there forever, especially on Facebook. You can't delete it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing is fully removed.
So just remember that anytime you want to bash anything, just in case one day you're in a position to try and do something better.
Can't wait till we've bashed DC and then finally get our shot.
Yeah, imagine.
All these times you were like, I can do better, call me up, and then they finally call you up and you're like, oh shit.
And then it's just me like in front of my fucking Batman film, shaky voice, thank you all for coming. Yeah, it wouldn't be great. It wouldn't be great. This week marks 3 years since Chadwick Boseman passed away. A lot of his co-stars from a number of films, primarily the ones I saw were from Black Panther co-stars, posting tributes to him. That is wild that was 3 years ago.
Hey, it's like, honestly, we've said it multiple times and we always say it in our friend group, but the 2020 to 2022, that 2-year period, like, it's a blur. No one remembers it.
100%.
The fact that that's 3 years now is wild. Such a shame, man.
It really, really sucks. I do think the MCU has done a phenomenal job in honouring him.
I do.
And I mean, that's the best we can ask. All we can do is remember fondly how good a job he did. He's done a lot of really good films outside the MCU as well.
Yeah.
That are definitely worth watching. And I mean, as sad as it is for someone to die so young, the ability that he in particular has with his art to carry on is also
Yes.
quite special. And I think that's the one, not good thing, one comfort we can take away from it is
Yeah.
that you can still experience the
Everyone
echo
can.
that they left behind.
Yeah, everyone can still go watch Black Panther and see why he was so loved in that film.
Exactly.
Yeah.
More strike news.
Are we ready for Connor to get angry at CEOs?
So the AMPTP, which is essentially, ironically, the Union of Studios, is essentially what they are. Let me just double check exactly what it stands for, though. Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers. The irony that they are essentially a union for scumbag CEOs is hilarious. Anyway, the AMPTP has hired a new crisis PR firm to try and save their image as more people continue to realise the importance of actors and writers receiving fair deals. So, first and foremost, well done everyone who has been aware of these strikes and been informing people who aren't aware.
Yes.
So if you have seen the stuff on Twitter and you've told it to your parents and people you work with, you're just making noise about it. You're making it part of your day-to-day conversation when people are talking about what's going on in the world. Shout out you guys, because we're turning the tide. We're making them realise they done fucked up.
Yeah.
Secondly, this day and age, you're gonna let a news article leak that, what was the quote, Hori? Thin-skinned.
There was something, I forget exactly what it was. Basically, the Bob Iger and the Warner Brothers CEO, because I forget his name,
Bob Zauser.
It was like thin-skinned Bob Iger, shocked to they're shocked to see that they have become villainized over this whole fair deal situation. Like, I tweeted it, and you also made a tweet, but like,
yeah,
why are we surprised that the overpaid CEOs are completely out of touch with the general public's perception of overpaid CEOs? Like,
I don't know how they possibly thought that the entire world was going to be like, these are the good guys here.
It doesn't surprise me though, because Bob Iger's these are the same people that were like, oh, we'll just wait these strikes out till these people are losing their homes and stuff, thinking that they're like, oh, the general public's like, yes, you get them, we're on your side. When it's like, all of their comments have been like completely tone deaf and blind to what the general public actually had, like their perception of them is. So I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised at all that they are like, oh my God, we've been vilified. Like, I'm glad they're realizing they're being vilified. That's the great thing here.
Let's be completely clear here. They have made their money making films about how you should fight the evil big bad guy. And they are now surprised that people like me and you who have grown up on these films are going, hold the fucking phone a minute. You are the evil big bad guy. Get fucked. It's like what I said when fucking Andor announced that it's been postponed. The notion that a film about fighting the big bad has been postponed because the people making that need to go fight the big bad should not be lost on anyone. It's fucking hilarious.
It's just...
But I'd like to think that Bob Iger is sat at home reading mean comments. He's seeing our shorts where we call him a scumbag, and he's like, they're being mean. Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, if you are ever sad that you're not allowed to cyberbully people anymore, go and cyberbully the CEOs of these companies. They do not count.
The thing is, do you know what I think is more realistically happening? Is Bob Iger was like, thinking they're doing great, they're doing the right thing and how they're handling it and stuff. No perception of what the internet's saying. But then it's like his kid. It's like, Dad, it's like, are you not sitting down and so like it was more people like close to home, family members were like, are you not going to sort out this fair deal? And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, no one thinks this is fair what you're doing to these writers. And he's like, what? Oh, that hurts me. We're doing the correct thing here. They're trying to extort us for money. And it's like, I imagine it's like more and more people, and then now he's like, wait, what's the general? And someone's shown him an art, like, or someone's come in and he's like, right, so how's things going in the press? And like, yeah, things aren't looking great. And he's like, what do you mean?
I'm really curious to see what their stock prices are looking like. Disney
I
stock
guarantee
price.
there was some meeting and he's had to have like a PR meeting. He's like, okay, so I'm guessing things are doing okay. Like we're handling this. And they're like, yeah, so about that, the general public hates you. We think it's best if you do no more interviews because you keep saying the wrong thing. I think like it's just so funny to me that they're like so shocked by this. Like
what happened on the 24th of August? 24th of August, Disney. Is that when Bob Iger made his comment about people losing their homes?
No, because that wasn't that long ago. That comment was a while ago now.
But yeah, so on August 10th, they were trading at nearly $92 a share. They are currently at $83 a share.
Yikes.
And that is like a steady decline.
Yeah, that's a decent decline.
Back in May, they were at 102.
Not looking good, Chief.
They have lost $20 off of their stock price since May. By fighting this kind of shit. And there's a real chance it only continues to get worse because what's going to happen soon is they're going to start running out of content. And then people are going to be like, well, I'm not going to keep paying £14 a month for Disney Plus if there's nothing new on there. And then there'll be no one going to the cinemas to give them money because they won't have any films coming out.
And you know what will happen? These more indie studios that have agreed to them are going to be like, oh, we've got this new film and this new show on our indie platform.
You're going to have people at A24 who are allowed to keep working going, oh, we're the only film in cinema this week. Okay, cool. We can afford to advertise this film X amount and we won't be competing with other films.
Well, it's like, and all the news things that like cover media, they'll be like, oh, there's nothing. Oh, there's this one film coming out by A24, and A24 is going to be like slammed with PR because every news thing is going to be wanting an interview and to get their thing, so they have something to write about. It's going to be great for the indies.
100%. And that will then really hurt Disney's bottom line because then you've potentially got an entire generation will be opened up to indie films. And they'll be like, big studios aren't always that great, you know. So, I mean, they might think they're winning the battle here, but they may well end up losing more than just their house if they're not careful. On top of that, AMC has signed a temporary agreement with SAG-AFTRA to allow work on 3 TV shows to continue. 2 of them are Walking Dead spin-offs. A Daryl Dixon one and another one. And Interview with a Vampire Season 2.
It's interesting. So they've... I wonder if this is less... AMC as a studio as a whole is not willing to yet... They're tied maybe into the AMPTP. So they can't like blanket agree because they have to wait till that union agrees. But they have the ability that individual productions can agree to stuff because they're like they are seen as like a standalone thing. Obviously, this new Walking Dead series that they are launching, or like Daryl Dixon season 2, but like these are like the Walking Dead is a huge franchise for them. They're gonna want to keep that ball rolling. Makes sense. Don't know about the Interview with a Vampire. Never heard of it. But
neither.
Interesting because like we said, if they do this, few shows going out, people might be like, well, guess we're back to watching The Walking Dead again. Let's get back into that franchise. Might do them well.
I think that this is 3 shows that by agreeing to the demands just for these 3 shows, they can stomach that cost. While they continue to negotiate terms that they find more favourable permanently. So it's like, okay, we will pay a bit over the odds now to get these shows done because they're important, while we work with you to get the entire deal down a little bit. And I don't think that's bad faith business. It's more useful than other stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I hope they end up just having to cave and paying the full money. I kind of want it to somehow get to a point where it's so bad that SAG-AFTRA and the WGA can up their demands a little bit, and the studios have no choice but to go, fine.
Yeah, if the longer they leave it, the studios do risk, like, it gets to a point where they come back and they're like, okay, we'll agree, and then SAG-AFTRA goes, no, you've taken too long now. We want this. Like, that agreement's gone. We want this now. And then they're going to be like, but that's more. And like, well, you should have agreed sooner, shouldn't you?
It's definitely a rough one. And I mean, it's tricky because we can talk about how we can wait the studios out all we want. These people do still have bills to pay. The fund is never going to be bottomless. But I know a lot of people are helping out where they can. I know there's lots of resources out there to find out where you can donate to help. Hopefully they can, or they do have enough money there to at least get this deal over the line.
Hopefully.
And let's not forget, fuck these rich fuckers for trying to ruin art. Because that's what this is. This is ruining art. As much as some actors, yes, are overpaid, or maybe they're not particularly good actors, and some writers might not be particularly good writers, or you might not like their writing, at heart, they are artists and they deserve to be paid a fair living wage for their art, when that art has the potential to make people who've done nothing even more money. And in turn of supporting art, it is National Cinema Day in the UK on Saturday.
It is. Get on down
I'm
to the
very
cinema.
excited for that. Yeah, get on down to the cinema. Cineworld are doing £3 tickets all day. And it doesn't matter the format either, by the way. So you can go watch an IMAX film for £3. If you haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, go watch it for £3. Ooh.
I think View might even be doing some deals for National Cinema Day.
Yeah, they're also doing £3.
So, I mean, it wouldn't be right if we weren't recommending people either go watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Blue Beetle. I think those should be the top of the list.
Blue Beetle, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Oppenheimer. Odeon's also doing £3 a ticket. So it looks like most of the major chains doing £3 a ticket. If they're, I mean, fuck it. If you haven't seen Oppenheimer or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Blue Beetle, do a triple feature. Treat yourself. £9. You can probably watch all 3 of them in IMAX and go and watch 3 films in IMAX for what it would normally cost to just watch it in IMAX. Like, you're laughing. But yeah, if money's a little bit tight in the minute, but you do normally love the cinema, this might be a brilliant opportunity for you to get out there and see a film you've been wanting to see.
Yeah.
And also, it helps the cinemas, which is always very, very important.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Content Championship.
Indeed. This is a big boy one.
It is.
Man of Steel versus The Winter Soldier.
Wow. Where you're going.
You don't know everything about me, Mr. Zontal.
We've done this podcast long enough for me to know your opinion on one certain film in this this matchup.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but would you like to get us started?
Well, you need to run through the categories.
Of course. As always, personal relevance. How well has it aged? rewatchability, story, acting, and cinematography / general visual appeal. I think visual appeal is starting to be what I'm settling on for this.
Yes, personal relevance. Both in a period where, I mean, Winter Soldier came out, it's like early days Marvel in a way. I think it was
2014.
Still phase 1. Was Winter Soldier still phase 2? Phase 2.
Phase 2.
So yeah, so we're into phase 2. Obviously by that point it's like regularly going to see the Marvel films that's coming out. The MCU's building. Falling in love with that like MCU that is being created. Winter Soldier's a great film. Definitely made me enjoy Captain America more. We got Bucky Barnes. Like, great character. Great character building of like the characters in the MCU versions and seeing how like more of them start to interact and different things and their points of view on certain issues and those dynamics. Man of Steel, I would say the first. I remember the older Superman, but like this was the first Superman film. Like I went to the cinema, like the Superman of my generation, I would say. Also, we all love Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
I don't think that's unfair to say. Definitely, probably where a lot of people fell in love with Henry Cavill.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Because of Man of Steel. Got me excited for DC, even if it hasn't followed through. But
yeah,
both in like a period of where superhero stuff was still fairly fresh, but also really fun and exciting to see more and more.
It was that very much. There is a superhero film. This will be phenomenal.
Yeah,
because it just felt like they couldn't miss.
I don't know if you're leaning one way or the other here, or if you're similar to me.
I think Man of Steel is a solid, well-rounded take of Superman. I do think it was quite refreshing at the time to add a bit more grit to it. I know since I've become more of a fan of maybe less grit and more goofy, but I think that's because at the time, all the superhero stuff we'd had before was really goofy with not a lot of grit. And I'm just I've gone through that. I enjoyed the grit. I'd now like a fresher take.
Yep.
But at the time, that was a new take on Superman. I enjoyed it. Henry Cavill was good. The storytelling was good. The fighting was good. I enjoyed it. And I completely agree. It made me excited for what DC could bring. My only main concern at the time, which I think ended up being true, ironically, was are DC going to try and rush to catch up with Marvel? Because Marvel had a 5-year head start on them. And, I mean, that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as I've made no mistakes on the podcast, Winter Soldier is my favourite MCU film.
No.
It's phenomenal. It was the first one in the MCU at that time, I want to say, that kind of changed the style. It was more of a spy espionage film.
Yeah.
Which was kind of fun. I'm checking Guardians. Guardians of the Galaxy came out in 2014 as well. So we had a really good year there where it's gone. Yeah. I want to say Winter Soldier was first, then followed by Guardians. And I really thought they were going to start to have a bit of fun and not get stuck on a formula. Which, I mean, they have their moments. They got a bit stuck on a formula that they're now struggling to shake. But, I mean, Winter Soldier is, as far as I'm concerned, basically perfect. The irony is I don't think it is the best superhero film. I don't even think it gets in my top 5 superhero films anymore. But it is by far one of my favourite. That's like fair. When I'm looking at like how I feel about them versus how good I think they are. You know how a lot of people have like their favourite bad film and stuff. I'm not saying Winter Soldier is bad, but they'll have like I love this and I'll watch this every single day, even though I know nothing it's special. Yeah. I absolutely adore Winter Soldier. Even though I know it is not the best superhero film. And it might not be the best MCU film, but it's my favourite MCU film.
That's fair.
How well have they aged? Oh boy.
I mean, I feel like Man of Steel on its own, Man of Steel has aged well. Everyone still to this day feels like Henry Cavill was everyone still wants Henry Cavill to be Superman, and we see it to this day. People complain that he's no longer Superman. He fit the role perfectly. I think the film was great, kind of revered as one of the best out of that DCEU era, like one of the top ones of that collection. But I think unfortunately he's hurt a little bit because of how the DCEU was done overall.
I
I
agree.
think the film on its own aged well. The film with everything else that's happened, that's hurt how it's aged. Whereas Man of Steel, not Man of Steel, Winter Soldier, I mean, a lot of people say like their favorite Captain America film. They're one of the favorite like earlier MCU films.
Well, you've got to remember, Winter Soldier gave us Falcon for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
It brought Bucky back from the dead.
Mm-hmm.
It gave us a bit more of Cap as an actual person. You had the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, in reality, what ends up happening in Infinity War and Endgame starts in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Because by bringing Bucky back, they find out about Bucky's secret, and then Bucky's secret causes the Avengers to fracture. And then that causes them to be split up when Thanos attacks, which causes them to lose.
Yeah.
But I think I'm completely biased here. I think Winter Soldier's aged perfectly. It's chef's kiss. Man of Steel's a bit more complicated. It really depends who you ask. It was the beginning of the Schneiderverse, and as a result, you have a lot of diehard fanboys and a lot of diehard haters, and that really muddies the water. Because what you get is a load of people saying it's the best thing ever, and a load of people saying it's the worst thing ever, when in reality, it's somewhere in between.
Yeah.
It's a solid film. It's an enjoyable film. It had its good moments. It had its not so good moments, like basically every superhero film does. I don't think it's aged badly. I think what hurts it is the fact that the DCEU is falling into a steaming pile of garbage.
Unfortunately.
Rewatchability. I have never rewatched Man of Steel, but I wouldn't avoid it. It's just I've never rewatched it.
Have rewatched it because I got it on Blu-ray. So I saw it in the cinema and then watched on Blu-ray. I've probably seen like you know when it's like on TV, so you catch like half of it. Whereas Winter Soldier, I would say I've definitely rewatched at least twice. Whether that's through doing a binge watch of the MCU, which I probably wouldn't even do now though, because there's so many films.
That's far too much work.
But I feel Man of Steel's easier to just chuck on and watch, and you could just watch Man of Steel. Don't have to care about any of the other DC stuff. Winter Soldier, I think you could get away with just watching on its own, but would obviously be more enjoyable if you've watched like Phase 1 first.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've never rewatched Man of Steel. I've tried to think about this. I'm not 100% sure. I think it is most certainly my most rewatched MCU film.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a chance it is the most watched comic book movie as well.
Impressive.
It might be. I don't know if any of the Sam Raimi Maguire films or X-Men films might top it. But it's definitely going to be up there. I've watched that film a lot of times. I agree with you. Other than like Doctor Strange and Guardians 1, I don't think this is probably like the last film in the MCU list you can watch by itself.
Yeah.
I think anything after that, other than like Guardians 1 or Doctor Strange 1, you really, really need to have watched something else first.
Yeah.
Obviously, like me and you having watched all this stuff and studied it as much as we have, we can watch any one of them and know what we need to know because we've seen it all before.
Yeah.
for a lot of people, if you're just watching this for the second time ever, you're going to have needed to potentially watch Captain America
Mm,
and maybe Avengers.
yeah.
And even then, all of a sudden, you're in a 3-film binge. And I definitely think this is something we're going to look back on in 20 years and go, yes, the MCU was fucking awesome. There being 70 projects for you to catch up from beginning to end is a lot.
Well, someone down the line, there's going to be a slim watch list. If you
100%.
watch these specific films, you get everything you need to know. Or people are just going to be like, I just rewatched this first phase 1. But I feel like
when did this come out? April 21st of this year. How long would it take you to watch all of the MCU films? So it doesn't even
not
look
even
like
TV.
yeah, this doesn't even look like it includes TV. And it'd take you around 68.6 hours. There have been 2 more films come out since then as well.
It's basically 3 days straight for just the films.
One sec. How long did it take to binge watch all of the MCU? Do you want to take a guess?
With TV shows,
Bearing in mind I just gave you 68 hours
like
from
150 hours.
April. Only 117.
Oh.
And that was from August 3rd.
Still.
But still. It's a lot in it.
Yeah. It is.
Like, that's... I work from home and I'm allowed to just watch stuff the entire time because I just answer emails. And you've still got 3 weeks worth of work. If you work, 37.5 hours a week, that's 3 weeks and a bit of watching that for 7.5 hours a day while you're working, and you still would just about be done with it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. The ceiling for entry is so high now, and I think that was part of the reason when we were getting towards like Infinity War Endgame, and we knew the end was coming. Or sorry, the big payoff was coming. It was like 20 hours.
Yeah.
Which is like that's like 2 weekends, and then we can be ready to enjoy this big moment with the entire world.
Yep.
And now it's like 120 hours just so you can understand that one reference that you probably need to have read a comic book to understand as well. And if we didn't love it so much, we'd probably flame it for that, but I fucking adore it, so I'm still going to keep doing it, but I get why some people are over it.
Yeah.
However, now away from the so individual stuff, and more onto the objective stuff here.
Yep.
Story.
I feel like Man of Steel's story to me is like it was solid. Like we said earlier, it's a solid story. I don't think it necessarily did anything crazy special. It was a good origin. It was a slightly new feel for the origin of Superman. But I wouldn't say didn't stand out as anything special. Whereas at least Winter Soldier had that, like, wasn't the standard MCU feel, was a little different, was a bit more of an interesting story and an interesting way of telling the story, and not just like an origin story. I think that, to me at least.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Man of Steel, I mean, it hits all the major beats pretty solidly. It doesn't really make you go, "Oh, that was overdone, that was underdone." And I think it explores Superman in a good way. I know people a character as old as Superman, people are always going to have their preferred ways of telling stories.
Yeah.
And I get some of them. I know one scene that causes a lot of divisiveness is when he's working at the pub and kind of gets bullied by one of the patrons, and then he goes and puts loads of fucking logs through the guy's truck. And the guy comes out from drinking and his like car's just suspended. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's not very Superman," but a lot of people are like, "No, but this was before he was Superman. This is still when he's like trying to work out, and he's like working out. And I get why that might cause a bit of
Yeah.
divisiveness. I do.
Yeah.
Overall, I think the story's good. I have no major issues with it. Winter Soldiers, it's beat after beat. The return of Hydra, the betrayal of Bucky, the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mhm.
You get to go back to the army base where it all started, and you see Zola down below. You get introduced to the Falcon, who then becomes Captain America. You get to see a little bit more of Black Widow as a person.
Yeah.
You get to see more of Captain America as a person. I love it, man. I love it. It hits that sweet spot of espionage and superhero that really, for me, is right in that sweet spot of two genres that I really enjoy. So, like, for me personally, it hit all the right spots.
Yeah.
Acting.
I mean, some people would say Henry Cavill is Superman.
True.
I think he did a great job in that role. Fits that role incredibly. I mean, I feel like Winter Soldier, though, just by this point, there's a bit more of a stacked cast in that sense of like the recurring characters that and actors we've seen in playing all their roles. We know they're great in. Obviously, new people like it's just. I feel all round more of a stacked, solid showing across the board. Whereas kind of Man of Steel, I feel like the person that like sticks in my mind is like Henry Cavill as Superman. And not nothing else really stands out to me.
My note for Man of Steel is
Mm-hmm.
verbatim. Overall good, but maybe slightly forgettable.
There you go.
And I think that's the perfect way to put it. Yes,
Yeah.
at no point do I sit here and go, the acting was bad. It wasn't. It was good. But no one put such good performance in that I'm like, wow. Whereas you think of Winter Soldier, you've got Samuel L. Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
Sebastian Stan, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Anthony Mackie, Robert Redford.
Mm.
And you got to remember, Robert Redford then did something he'd never done before when it came time to do the time heist for Endgame. And he, for the first and only time in his entire career, did a role in a sequel of someone he'd already played. He'd never done that before. But then for Endgame, he came back to be his character again for the time heist.
There you go.
Scarlett Johansson and Samuel L. Jackson are the two highest earning actors of all time in sense of their films have earned more money than anyone else. Them two constantly go back and forth like this based on who's had a film released more recently.
Yeah.
Like, they are as big as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
The film is so good, and they do have memorable performances. Every single one of these actors has a moment in that film that I vividly remember.
Yeah. It's a lot more of a memorable film.
Yes.
From performances.
Cinematography.
I mean, Winter Soldier
This might be the only one where I have Man of Steel winning.
Yeah, I mean, although Winter Soldier was a different story feel, it still had the Marvel look. Still visually was just the Marvel. It was what we'd already at this point become accustomed to. Okay, this is how the Marvel films look. This is the visual expectation, the level we expect. Like, okay. Man of
100%.
Steel definitely like nailed it, I think, with standing apart, considering they're like stepping into the superhero like conversation versus them. Like they were just getting going to try and compete with MCU. So they had to stand out and separate themselves from the Marvel look. Otherwise people go, they're just 100% copying how Marvel's doing it. And I think I enjoyed. When I think about it, I think I enjoyed how Man of Steel was more. It's
I'm right there with you. I think the cinematography and the visuals for Man of Steel was good. I personally find Zack Snyder to be quite hit or miss. But Man of Steel was a hit for me. I really enjoyed it. My only complaint, and it's the tiniest little gripe, is that I would have liked the colours of Superman's suit to be brighter.
I get that.
But I don't know if that's me looking back now with the mind of I want it to feel more like a comic book and less like a movie in the real world.
Yeah.
I don't know if I always felt that way. Whereas, like you said, Winter Soldier's nothing special. It's very MCU. The only thing visually it has going for it is, I would say, up until Shang-Chi, it had the best fight scenes in the MCU.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
But Shang-Chi then came along and blew it out of the fucking water.
Yeah. It's superhero films aren't anything crazy visually.
Ironically, I think post Endgame, as much as people want to slate the MCU post Endgame, is when we've seen the most visual difference in MCU projects. Because, like we said, they've released the reins a little bit to try and stop it feeling so formulaic. And as a result, directors are being allowed to have their style back. You saw some of Sam Raimi's style in Multiverse of Madness. You saw John Watts in No Way Home, etc.
Yeah.
Which you weren't seeing before.
No, yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I think cinematography I'd give to Man of Steel, but everything else for me is Winter Soldier through and through.
Yeah, I think there's a couple places where I'd be like pretty even on. I would say overall I lean towards Winter Soldier.
I don't think for the most part that would be that controversial a take. No. Maybe we're living in a fantasy land.
I think.
Would you like to hear what that's created for Winter Soldier in the next round?
Go on.
Punisher. That's accidentally looking like a fucking superhero showdown. Punisher versus Winter Soldier. That'd have been a good one. Why did we never think of that?
Could still happen.
maybe one day. But yeah, that's it from us this week.
Yes.
We will have another busy week next week with Ahsoka episode 4, among other things, I am sure. Thank you very much for hanging out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next week.